Sounds good. Sounds good. So, hey everyone, I'm Gabriel. I'm the CMO at ASEAN right now. Let me get my right desktop. Yeah, this one. So my goal here is to showcase what I'm building currently. And again, this is like an evolving organism. I've seen a lot of people talking about skills, how to build the best skill, how to fix a particular problem, and so on. And I've learned a bunch of that. I could do that myself, I could do that locally, and so on. But more and more, I started realizing that great part of the challenge of AI is actually rolling out to teams and making sure the teams are cooperating and organizing themselves and being able to leverage all that collective knowledge. So, based out of a bunch of things that I saw from smarter guys in the internet, I was kind of creating my own version of okay, how do we organize this internally? How do we ship things throughout the company? And I'll showcase some of the path that we went there, our current stack, where we are. I'll do a quick demo of some of the tools we're using, and then at the end we can have some questions there. So first, levels of maturity, I think we are all in different levels here. Some people are still in the basic prompting. I'm sorry, you have to catch up. Uh, Please study more AI. Then people start using different models, and now I think the models are so much similar that it makes less of a difference than it was making like 8 months ago, where they were radically different. Uh, then skills, starting to use skills, building the skills, consuming skills, downloading a bunch of them from the internet. Then shared context, really understanding context, how you have your context, how you organize your context across the company. And now I think we're getting to a point where in our fifth phase, that is just like, okay, what is the operating system? And we're starting to become a little bit more AI native and not having AI as just like a support system and so on. So we started with kind of enabling the teams with the basics. So Open Web UI was giving people access to chat in different models. As a company, we have always tried to be agnostic and try not to pick a lane between OpenAI and Anthropic. We were always kind of trying to use tools that could give access to the best models at time. So we're always on the open source kind of path. We did build a RAG and an MCP with our internal knowledge, and that was one of the big jumps that we had because then everyone could have an MCP that was consuming all of our documentation, internal knowledge, API documentation, and so on. And then we started using N8N for workflows, so using AI in the middle of workflows. That was great, better quality of messaging, faster kind of access to information. People could really start using AI in a more kind of robust way. But it was hard to maintain, kind of maintaining the RAG, maintaining the structure to have our knowledge base organized. Initially, we were doing everything in Google Drive. We had a bunch of files there that were our knowledge base, plus obviously kind of documentation, stuff like that. It was a nightmare, permissions, the file structure, and so on. It was just chat-based. There was no coding environment or anything like that. And we're not using skills or not really reusing a bunch of stuff.
Gabriel, sorry, quick question. At this point, is the scope to enable the entire marketing team, or is this something you're building to enable the entire company
We're enabling the entire company. So
with
we're doing this for,
messaging? Okay, competitive,
yes,
etc. Okay.
yes.
And do you have any technical or IT help to do this, or this is all you?
This is mainly me. I have one person from my DevRel team that is helping me, and our CTO is kind of involved as well because sometimes we touch like we need servers and stuff like that. But overall, it's mainly me and a developer relations person that is a technical person that can code as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We tested videos and images, as many of you, creating videos, creating images. That's one of the areas that I'm very frustrated because we did not get kind of great results. They were inconsistent, they were off brand, they were never using the same image again, and so on. So this is an area for us collectively to work, but we have that capability, the models are there, and we can consume as needed as well. Then Claude Code came, and I'm being specific Claude Code because it's becoming the de facto name of the category almost. And it changed the whole game. It kind of created a step up in terms of like, okay, what actually can you get done with those models and integrations and code and so on. Engineering quickly adopt that, started using coding. I don't know how much percent of their PRs now are through Cloud Code. And then on the go-to-market side, we started seeing demand. We started seeing the more avid technical players wanting to play with it, learning to engage with that, and so on. But there was a huge maturity gap. So across the company, we have like, I would say 10, we're like a 130 people company. I would say like, besides the devs in the engineering team, there is like 10 people that really uses AI maturely. And then the rest is just kind of falling behind. And we have like people that are just like, okay, still on the GPT, nothing else but the chat era. So it was interesting. Everyone wanted to use, but there was a lot of friction of like, how do we engage, how do we use, and who gets what license? Are we paying Cloud Code for everyone? Are we using OpenAI? Are we using Codex? It's just like this whole discussion internally of like, okay, what do we do with this whole thing? So then, after testing a bunch of things, we ended up in a framework that I'm using right now, and we're evolving every day. But we decided on open code as the default for everyone. People can use others, but open code we decided for everyone. The main reason is it's flexible. You can use whatever model you want, and it's free. It's open source. We can simply go there and use. The other important thing for us is because of our maturity level, people are not using regularly every day AI to a volume. So paying a seat in a Cloud Code or something like that doesn't make sense. It's much better for us to be using the API mode. So that resolves, let's say, the harness conversation, like the environment where you're going to engage with the models. Then we have Lead LLM that manages the keys and the budgets for all the teams. So really organizing who gets access to what models do we send to the teams. We can proxy those models, so the teams that don't have a lot of knowledge about which model to pick, we can give guidance and they don't have to think about that. We switch the model based out of the type of task that they are doing. So there's a bunch of interesting stuff that we do there, mainly to manage the cost and manage the keys that we are releasing. And we have keys for all the big providers available for the team to consume. The third thing is we started creating our shared knowledge base and skill base in GitHub. So I'm going to show you that in a second. But what we did is we created a workflow where each team creates their own skills in the same repo. And we are migrating all of our knowledge base files like what is my persona, what is my ICP, what is my strategy, what is our terminology, what is our playbooks, what is our people roles or like things like vacations and stuff like that. Everything is going to the knowledge base in GitHub. That brings source of truth, that creates version control, but that also makes it a lot more easy to integrate stuff, to migrate stuff, and so on and so forth. That's one of the big changes that we're making. There are pros and cons that we can discuss about that, but that's working really well for us so far. And then the other piece is we're using Prefect Horizon to do MCP management. MCP is a big component of like rolling out capabilities to the teams, but you have to deal with things like authorization, access, security, and things like that. It's great when you are locally and you have all the keys and all the control, but when you're thinking about kind of sharing, let's say, Google Drive MCP for everyone in the company, you need to make sure each person is only accessing their files and stuff like that. And Prefect Horizon is doing a great job on helping us there. They are the ones that created the fast MCP, so they have been in the MCP environment for a while. Then we have two other pieces of the puzzle. We have an auto-sync process and config process. So the idea is that every person, when they start their job, they should have all the models configured for them, open code configured for them, with all the knowledge base and all the skills from their team or the shared skills already installed and ready to go in their open code. And we want to make sure that this process is always syncing. So as anyone is creating or updating a knowledge base, this gets synced locally to the person so they can use that directly without needing to do any sync or download or anything like that. We're doing that configuration agnostic of the tool that we're using. So we do that for open code, we do that for Cloud Code, Kilo Code, you name it. We can do the same, apply the same symlinks there. But the idea is that we push that through IT, we push that, and we have a process with a CLI that is doing kind of a background check and updating that content based out of the GitHub repo that is getting updated. Great. So mainly what we did is grab everything that we had, organize the process. Everyone has the same base. One of the challenges is for you as a human to consume information, it's hard to go on GitHub and click there and find things and kind of navigate there for you to know what our holidays this year or something like that. So we also created, and again, AI created, we didn't do anything besides asking AI to do it, a knowledge base portal that is simply exposing that in a more human readable format with AI on top, with search on top, that people can actually see the content and consume the content much more easily than simply going to GitHub. And that kind of divides the two groups. There's a bunch of people that creates policies or create the knowledge base and create skills, but the vast majority just consume those things. So they don't need actually to be editing and so on. So they consume a lot more from the knowledge base. Okay, questions so far? I'm going to show you kind of some of those tools. And I'm going to show you like the output of this whole thing. We just wanted to see if there's any questions at this point.
A ton. So, for instance, that means that every single person of the company's got a version, a mirror on their own machine of some of the key files that are relevant to them.
Yes.
Updated. Okay. And obviously it's not all the files.
No, it's not
That
all the
each person.
files.
So that's
It's the
defined by the light LM.
yeah,
No.
that's defined.
Which tool actually defines that? What each person should get?
Yeah,
AutoSync?
we define that on the GitHub repo and on the sync process.
Okay.
So we can add more skills or remove more skills from people. And we're creating profiles in GitHub for, depending on your role, what should be synced to your instance or not.
Okay. And the knowledge base portal, that's basically a human readable like HTML or React, or at least a front
Exactly.
end that adjusts automatically based on what changed in all the markdown files that you've got on the
Exactly. Yeah, it's just
on
like a
GitHub.
vibe coded portal for that.
And in your GitHub, it's mostly Markdown. Are there also HTML and other formats?
There are some PDFs. Almost everything is marked down, but there are some PDFs. There are some scripts as part of the skills as well.
Yeah.
But we try to keep as much as possible in Markdown right now.
Okay. Eric's asking, how do you handle memory and the knowledge base?
How do I handle what?
Memory and the knowledge base.
Oh, so the knowledge base process is managed by PR. So what we're doing is we get all the memory of like what happened and what changed on that memory base directly from GitHub because it's kind of on the PRs and so on. So you can do the Git blame and so on. The one thing that we're being careful is make sure that we're not syncing every single piece of the knowledge base and every single piece of the skills to everyone. So one of the things that the knowledge base portal actually exports as well is an MCP. So if there is additional content that is not locally in that machine, but we know it's in the company, it can be sourced through an MCP and kind of it can be got directly from the source when needed as well. So we're trying to kind of find that fine tuning. But for now, like it hasn't been a problem of like exploding context or anything like that.
Okay.
And
Um,
the other thing that is interesting that we're starting to see is that Teams doesn't even know that other skills were created, but their tools are already consuming it because their tools are already reading all the skills. So they know that that is something that they should use. So it's giving people ability to do stuff that they didn't knew existed, and it's already in the company for them.
all right. So a lot of people on the team are using skills, tools, etc., without even realizing.
Exactly.
This is awesome. Okay.
Okay,
I'll pause the questions here for now. You got so many more.
good. So demo time, let me show you some of that stuff. And again, feel free to ask questions. The goal here is to just showcase what we built. So this is our GitHub repo. It's organized by teams. So you have a shared repo, you have marketing repo. Here we have our MCPs, we have our skills, we have our knowledge base, and then we start kind of populating this as much as we can. Competitor information, product marketing information, go-to marketplace, anything that we think is like analyst reports, brand guidelines, marketing playbooks, all those things we kind of add here. And then the other teams are starting to add theirs as well. So people is adding their playbooks, revenue is adding their playbooks and their scripts and their skills as essays, as like sales engineers, all of them are just throwing things in this repo, and then we kind of can manage from that. As well, in this repo, we have the profiles. So what each person is going to sync based out of their role. We have the CLI that was created by our CTO that simply does the sync of this whole repo locally. There's a bunch of things that you do to kind of install and so on. So it's a whole like system by itself. But I think the big differentiator, the big thing that is like unlocked a lot of stuff for us is create your things, put in GitHub, make sure that that's locally for people. That's going to give you a big bump. All the other things we're doing just because we want to make sure that this is scalable for us on the long run, you know. Then
Gabriel, sorry, as a result, well, I'm thinking especially in the context of cloud, that's mostly what I use, but as a result, do you encourage people to use Codex or Cloud Code because it's mostly tied to GitHub, or are they okay using CodeWork as well because of the MCP?
yeah, we are encouraging people right now to use open code as a base. That's what we are encouraging people to. Some folks have licenses of different tools, so they are using those tools as well. But we're not kind of saying, hey, go this route, go this route. We're just saying, okay, stay at the open code. Let's use the level open code first, make sure everyone is using and leveraging and so on. Then we'll upgrade them to kind of higher levels as we go.
Okay, thanks.
So that's a GitHub repo, nothing more than that. Then we have the knowledge base. So this is our knowledge base. Again, this is just reading the information. So we have our terminology here. You have a search with all the files that are in the knowledge base. You have an AI assistant here. You have MCP that comes out of it that you can read as part of your tools as well. So just helps people to organize and find links. So think of this as like an intranet or something of sort that people would consume and kind of
So
use.
it's like a super wiki basically with
It's just
AI.
like a super wiki that is auto-created directly from the knowledge base. You don't have to do anything to create this.
And why not use something like Notion or something that already had more functionality than, and why rebuild it?
This is just being auto-generated out of a skill directly from the knowledge base files we have in GitHub. We could have synced this to Notion and have those files in Notion as well and have the structure there. The only thing is that this gives us other capabilities of us controlling things like SSO, security policies, and stuff like that. And again, we don't pay Notion for everyone. So again, that
Oh,
would be
okay.
something
Yeah.
we would add a license cost to it, and this is just free.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool. So this is kind of the base. And then obviously when you are in, let me get my open code open here. You can just start a session. And whenever I start a session, everything is pre-built in for me. So I have the HubSpot MCP here ready. I have my skills from my team already. I have all the company MCPs also connected to my system. So it's all here. And I could keep adding skills. I'm trying not to add all of them at once because we want to make sure we're really using the skills we create. And then you can ask questions like, what is our go-to marketplace? This is a type of question that someone that is a BDR could ask. And then it goes and find information for example, of what is our go-to marketplace or what are go-to marketplace, what are Zoom, let's say, what are Zoom personas? And then it goes and finds the personas, bring it back from the context we have. And you see that it's calling the tools without me asking or saying, please call that tool and do that stuff. And it's here, these are the personas, this is the canonical source that you can see where that is in a particular file. And then you can do that to remessaging and so on. So for example, if I ask something to translate something, it might get my skill that has all the way that we like to translate things and apply that skill and so on and so forth. So I think the idea was to, one, consolidate context so we don't have different levels of context and people getting different responses. Second, give the ability for people that don't know really how to use a skill or don't know that a skill exists to simply go and run with that. And third, make sure that we have a controlled environment in terms of access, authorization, who gets what, and we can organize the whole thing.
It's really great. Um, what's been helpful to drive the adoption from the team, and so where and how is adoption really taken off, and where do
Yeah.
you see it lagging?
Yeah, I think the two biggest challenges I have right now in terms of adoption. First of one is let me start my share. First of one is people not knowing to use GitHub. It's a big one. They
Yeah.
don't know how to do that. But as soon as they learn that they can simply go to github.com, click edit, add it normally there, and click save, and it works, for them was okay. Not having to think about doing a commit, opening a PR, and all of that was a great unlock for the teams. They can simply go and kind of go to github.com, make their edits, and so on. The other thing is,
So sorry, Gabriel. Namely, it means they go there, they look at the scale markdown if it's a scale, and they just edit and
yeah,
save.
they do the edit that they need or to a knowledge base. A lot of them are using Google Docs to parse things out and copying and pasting as markdown later on just to push to GitHub. So that's, I think, it's one of the points of friction. The other point of friction that I'm seeing right now is people not knowing basics of AI, like basics of like what is a skill, how to run a skill, how to impart context, how to create steps. So there is a lot of learnings and a lot of things that we're putting into the teams of like, okay, how to use these things. The other friction point that we had was people think that everything is integrated. Every single system is integrated. They say the word MCP, oh, just plug the MCP. And it's just like, it doesn't really work like that. Half of the MCPs are, you have to put up a server up, or you have to, or the MCP is limited and you don't really have the ability to modify much that MCP. So we're kind of going through and seeing kind of where the areas where we might just create some proxy MCPs from ourselves to actually help people solve some of those problems. So those are some of the areas that we're getting through. But overall, like the whole company is starting to adopt it's the official place for our documentation right now, like internal documentation. And especially my teams and
Including for
sales
the
team.
tech team?
Yes, but not the product documentation, just like the company level documentation.
Okay,
So not
okay.
the engineering documentation and things like that. Uh, the engineers are the ones that use with more independence. They use what they want. They don't use what they don't want, but they know what they're doing. The rest of the team is just using and being happy with it, and that's fine. On the go-to-market side, we're starting to see some big benefits because of the shared context. Because, for example, my
Yeah.
BDR was just like, oh, I need to write an email. They would go there, grab a file, upload to their context, and say, hey, write this email for me, blah, 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 blah. Now they simply already have that, and they have a skill with our voice and tone, with our differentiators, with our value
Yeah.
proposition, and so on. Without them knowing, their email was much better, and they were just like, okay, this is so much better. So it really kind of stepped up the game for everyone.
Really cool. And the use cases that you've seen taken off the most, augmented by this, do you already know what they are?
I haven't done much tracking. I know people are using a lot. Uh, I've seen like on the go-to-market side, writing copy, connecting our website. I saw people connecting a lot more with the tools because of like Google Drive MCP, HubSpot MCP, a bunch of the workflows that were just like, oh, I download this spreadsheet and then I upload to ChatGPT and then I ask this question. It became a skill with an MCP connected that now runs every day and the guy gets you the result. So I'm starting to see that type of process pick up. That was something that was a lot more manual before.
If I'm Notion, I'm building exactly that. Uh, this is really cool, Gabriel. Thank you. Any questions for Gabriel? Otherwise, I'll keep going.
Gabriel, how has version control been for the team? I mean, my assumption is that people kind of figure out how to use PRs over time, but do you ever see instances where like they can't figure out how to edit it at the same time? How's that worked out?
I wish that that was the problem. We don't have enough people that is really eager to start changing things. We have more users than creators. So I would love to have that problem, and then it's just like getting people deeper into GitHub. Right now, I would say like 90% of the company is consuming, 10% of the company is producing. Or someone, oh, I found this great skill. Can you throw it there in the GitHub? And then a person that is more versed would just go and do that in GitHub. So we see that people helping each other. But I've been training my team. I just did a workshop with my team is just ask AI to do it for you. So just get the repo locally and then say, hey, create a PR, do all that stuff. I don't know what I'm doing, but I need to get this file in that folder. AI will take care for you. So I'm just kind of teaching them to not necessarily learn if they don't want to, but just ask AI to do it.